Hello, friends. Super excited for you to listen to the episode today. Before I present the guest, as always, let me run a few things by you. Please follow, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It helps boost the show, grow the audience, and ultimately helps me create the best show for you guys. So I would appreciate if you guys could do that. Additionally, please go follow me on social media, ROYBTZ on Instagram and ROY_BNTZ on Twitter. If you go to my Twitter profile, you can subscribe to the newsletter, which gives you access to updates, occasional blog posts, news about the guest, future of the show, and most importantly, just a very easy way for you to get the podcast into your inbox every single week. One more thing, please consider supporting this independent podcast. I made the decision not to work with any sponsors on this podcast for right now. I'm trying to keep it independent for many reasons. So if you find value in this podcast, please help sustain it and grow it by going to the link in the show notes and supporting the podcast. Finally, if you want to start your own podcast, I have a full tutorial that covers everything you need to know, soup to nuts, A to Z, how to start, grow, execute, market, reach out to guests. Really everything that you need to know about how to start a podcast is in this very easy to follow manual ebook course, however you want to call it. And it's all right there. So if that's something you're interested in, again, it is in the show notes at the bottom. Feel free to check that out. Let's move on to the guest. This week I have Alex Heiden. Alex is, especially for you younger people, very inspirational. He's only 21. What he's been able to do in those 21 years is unbelievable. He's the founder and CEO of Closify, and he recently started another company, Trackify, and really, really inspirational. I let him explain and describe what all those companies do because he's going to do a much better job at it. For me, it's kind of inspirational to see someone at 21 being able to start companies, being a CEO, really laser focused on what he needs to do for his personal growth, for his business growth. And I think if you're a young person, with an inkling for entrepreneurship, you should definitely check out this episode. Alex does an awesome job just distilling life lessons, business lessons, some insights into growth and to how he started everything, what was the whole journey for him. So really packed with information, and I left this episode just like with a jolt of energy after I finished talking to Alex. That's how I felt, and that's how I hope you're going to feel by the end of this episode. Without further ado, here is Alex Heiden. Enjoy the episode, everyone.
The Genuinely Interested Podcast.
Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast. We recently connected through Twitter, and ever since I've been kind of trying to figure out who, because I haven't heard of you before, and then I was like, oh, this kid's young and he's doing stuff. Like this is very cool. So yeah, happy to have you on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on here. It's really cool.
Yeah. So for people who, like myself, a few weeks ago have not heard of you, maybe you can give us a rundown.
Yeah. So super long story short.
Well, you don't have to make it short. You can make it as long as you want.
Like senior-ish year of high school, we had to do like a kind of like an exit paper as for like one of our English classes. And it had to be like a 6-page paper on an unpopular opinion. And at this point, I had kind of just discovered making money online and gotten exposed to like some of those types of people. And obviously it's like a very popular narrative to bash college. And so, I started kind of like exploring into that. And then I decided to actually make my paper on why college actually is worth it for most people, despite the fact that I was about to go to college. And so I wrote my paper on that, and I ended up like, going down just like tons of rabbit holes of like all these crazy statistics about college. I'm trying to remember some of them, but things like 80% of people actually end up in a field unrelated to their degree. And, there's all these like crazy statistics that actually, supported, obviously my thesis. And so that kind of like first planted the seed that I was like, maybe college isn't the route for me. Because my original plan was to get into a good school, which I did, and then go into investment banking just because like that's, where all the money's at, at least that's where I thought.
Yeah.
And so I went to school at St. Louis University and I played tennis there. So I was a full-time Division I student athlete, and I was trying to do e-commerce drop shipping. Very, very like no success, like horrible success.
Did you ever think that tennis would be the route? Like, did you ever like, oh, I could be like a professional tennis player?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't really like pro level good.
Okay.
And not to mention, even if you are like, unless you're like top 100 in the world, you don't make any money. Like you could be 400 in the world, which is obviously like incredible. And you're literally losing money every year after your travel expenses and coach and whatnot. So I never really had the desire to try to play professionally, but I did really enjoy, playing in college. Yeah, I had no success drop shipping. I used to resell sneakers. And so I used my profits from that to try to, run Facebook ads and whatnot. Ended up basically losing all the money that I had made selling sneakers from about March of 2019 to December of 2019. And then after my last store had failed in December, I'm like, I'm going to like run out of money soon. So I got to pivot. So I took a few weeks break of like actually, actively trying things. And then I literally saw like a tweet from, who's one of my now like friends and mentors. And he's like, I'm looking for someone to help them make their first dollar online via internet phone sales. And I was like, dude, like what's internet phone sales? And he explained it to me. And, basically I had bought several drop shipping courses to try to help me learn. And he was like, instead of being
can you explain to people, because I'm sure they're like a lot of my audience are entrepreneurs, drop shipping is very familiar to them, but some may not. Can you explain what it is to them?
Yeah, so drop shipping is a pretty simple business model where essentially you are going to pick a product that you want to try to sell that you don't actually own. So like, for example, I'm trying to think of something that's like very popular. So for example, one that I actually tried was these little galaxy roses, and I try to do it as like a Christmas present. And then you go on a wholesale site like AliExpress or Alibaba, and you upload that product and make your own website around it as if, you're the one, you're the sole seller of it, and try to brand it and whatnot. And then you have to drive traffic to your website, whether it's via Facebook ads or, more popular now is doing it via TikTok organic. But you push traffic to your store. You mark up the price from AliExpress. So say it's $10 to buy from AliExpress. You sell it for $30. You pocket the $20, or if you're running ads, $20 minus your ad spend. So yeah, that's what drop shipping is.
And then, so I interrupted your story, but I just wanted people to like get a better understanding for it.
Yeah. And so then my friend was like, you could be the one selling the drop shipping courses instead of the one buying it, and you could be getting the commission. And so I was like, I think I can do that because like I just bought them. Like I understand why people are buying them. And so sure enough, it really took off. I started, I was closing at an insane rate. And then I started getting all these clients to the point where, my day went from 5 a.m. to midnight because, like I said, I was playing tennis in college. We practiced from 6 to 8, and I had classes all day and then weights. And so, I was taking sales calls during any break that I had. I was taking calls at like 10 p.m. on a Friday night. Like the guys on my floor would be like trying to get me to go out. And I'd be like, dude, I have a sales call in like 15 minutes like, Friday night. And so like my schedule was crazy, and it quickly got to the point where I had more clients and more sales calls than I could handle myself. And so one of my buddies who was across the country from me at the time, but was interested in the same online business stuff as me, I was like, dude, I can start outsourcing some of these sales calls to you if you'll let me like train you and you like have some extra time, and like we'll split the commission. And so that's how my sales agency started, which I did for a while. And that was all in the B2C space, which is business to consumer. So selling online courses, coaching, mentorship, etc. And I tried to break into the B2B space, business to business, and they were all like, I don't want to work with the sales agency. Like I want like in-house sales reps that are like dedicated to my business and my business only. And so that kind of opened my eyes to a whole other market, because they were like, but I'll pay you if you can place a sales rep in my business. So then I was like, okay, like here's a whole nother business opportunity for me. So So I became a freelance recruiter, just training people up and then placing them in the business. I charge both sides. I charge for sales training and I charge to place a sales rep in the business. And I started booking all these interviews and paying for consulting calls with people that had worked with the biggest recruiters in the sales hiring space. And I was like, what's broken with the recruitment process? Like, what's not perfect? Like, if this was perfect, like, what would it look like? And they were like, well, one, it's super expensive. It's, you'll on average pay $5,000 for a single sales rep placed in your business. And they were like, two, it takes a long time because like they're training these guys. So it's taking 45 to 90 days. Mm-hmm. And then three, to be honest, the guys that we've gotten from recruiters haven't been that good because like they've never taken a sales call before. They just have sales training, which, since I was in sales myself, like I can tell you, it's all about reps. Like you don't actually get good at it until you've done it. Yeah. And so I was kind of like, how can I solve those three problems? And so the first thing that came to mind was, okay, why don't I, instead of training people myself and charging for sales training, why don't I find people that have already sold exactly what it is that my clients sell? So if my client sells Facebook ads to lawyers, why don't I go find someone that's already sold Facebook ads to lawyers? Like if they've done it once, they can do it again. So like that'll make it more predictable. So like that was my first thing. And then I was like, okay, how do I make it more affordable and how do I make it faster? And that also kind of solved the faster problem too, because again, now I don't have to train someone, I can just place them. So then I was like, how do I still make this even faster and more affordable? So the only way I can make it more affordable at scale is if I remove human labor, right? Like I can't be the one that's doing like outbound prospecting for sales reps and then manually vetting them and then interviewing a bunch of them and then finally placing one sales rep in someone's business. Like that's too much manual labor. I'm going to have to pay a lot of people to do all that. Like I'll never be able to make it more affordable. And so I came to the conclusion that I could actually turn it into a self-serve hiring platform like Fiverr or Upwork, but only for commission-only sales reps. Mm-hmm. And so now the only part that's manual labor for us now is we have an HR rep that verifies their experience and their track record. But now we let clients do the interviewing themselves. So all we have to do is, and we have outbound systems that, reach, we have people that reach out to different sales reps. We have strategies for that and whatnot. We also get a lot of sales reps that come to us inbound. They get pushed through our application process. HR interviews them, uploads them into our platform. And then it just becomes, as soon as a client pays us, there's no fulfillment. They just log into the platform and hire on their own. And then they'll get a check-in email or two from us. So then I finally, kind of cracked the code. Now, instead of, a recruiter would charge, $5,000 per head, we're much, much more affordable than that. We're much faster. Our clients on average hire in 3 to 7 days. And we're more predictable. Like I said, all of our reps are experienced and have already sold in the niches that our clients are in. So, now I've been running that company for like about exactly a year now. We've gotten over 160 clients, grown to a 7-figure run rate in 1 year. And so, yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Dude, how old are you?
I turned 21 in February.
Jesus Christ. I feel like I'm talking to like someone who's 40 with like 20 years of experience in the business and you're 21.
Yes, sir.
The story you just told seems like it's got the arc of that story is like a decade. But this all started at from drop shipping is 2019 to the sales agency to starting close all that. That's all that story just from 2019 up till now.
Yeah. And so I guess like a little tidbit that I left out is, so I built my partner built the MVP for Closify in early 2021. And then I was still in college at this point. And so, I took all my savings that I made as a sales rep, paid a developer to build Closify, and then I dropped out of school. And then I put my best friend that's my roommate here in Miami. Now I put him on salary before myself, moved us to Miami, doubled our business and personal expenses. And then we over doubled business our first month in Miami. It was really cool.
Wow. Dude, you give me hope. Yeah. All these, you see, this is a normal for people your age, like as far as your friend group and your peers, right? Like maybe a year older, a year younger, Is this normal? Is this, I guess, like, what is the current climate in colleges? Is it still like the parents' generation where people want to be like engineers, lawyers, corporate finance, et cetera, doctors, or is entrepreneurship the only road? Entrepreneurship is a wide umbrella, granted, but like it's a hot term right now and everyone wants, but is that the climate in colleges right now?
Yeah. So a lot of people were still going the business route. Honestly, I don't know anyone really that's becoming a lawyer. I don't even know if I know any people that are really trying to become doctors, maybe one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of them are still, going the traditional route because they're not really aware of the opportunity that there is for them in online business compared to the traditional business route. And on top of that, then unfortunately, I've tried to talk to, a lot of my old buddies and stuff, they do see people like me and they think that I'm just an exception or like a special case or like, it's not realistic for them to do too. But, and then it kind of just goes back to, it's something that I tell people a lot, like the dude with balls is going to go a lot further than the smarter guy. So I was like, I told a lot of my friends, like a lot of you are probably a lot smarter and more capable than I am. Like I just actually had the balls to start something and then to leave college to go all in on it. And, it paid off. And so that's what, like, that's the hardest part for a lot of them is, actually taking that first step and having the balls to do something that might be seen as a little risky.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people who have a lot of confidence, you don't necessarily need to be not dumb, obviously, but you don't have to be Einstein. You don't have to be the smartest human alive to go and try to get something. But sometimes people are like very, very intelligent and maybe lack a little bit of confidence. They start to rationalize and they start to think worst case scenario. And they're like, oh, I can do this. This is extremely difficult. How, I'm going to leave this thing that's guaranteed and go take this potential risk. They rationalize everything. And entrepreneurs, they're a little bit of dreamers, right? They're like, oh, I could see the big picture. I could, I want to live this type of life. And I think I could actually accomplish this. And it almost defies rationale, right? It's like, no, you shouldn't do this. You should go the traditional route. So I think entrepreneurs have to be a little bit of dreamers because otherwise it would never happen.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things I actually got from Russ, the artist's book is you have to be like delusionally confident. Mm-hmm. Like people should quite literally almost think you're delusional. And I think it's really true because, kind of like you said, like I didn't like, I kind of like, I knew it would work. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't, that's why I wasn't nervous at all about leaving school or leaving that, quote unquote, like guaranteed or safer path. Like I knew it would work. And I was so confident in it that I was willing to drop out of school. I was willing to put my friend on salary before myself. Like I was willing to move to Miami and jack up my living expenses. We're in, like, I think we literally just passed like New York City is the most expensive city. Like the cost of living is not cheap. And like, when I moved here, like on paper, it probably wasn't a smart financial decision. Like I probably shouldn't have been able to afford it. Mm-hmm. But now we got to a point where it's like, again, I get to live in Miami. I have a lot of my best friends here that do similar things. Like we rent yachts on the weekends. Like I bought myself a really nice first car. Like I got to do a lot of the things that like, I was dreaming about 3 years ago. And I kind of like just believed the whole time that it was going to happen. It's just like in due time.
It's wild how young you are and how fast these things happen nowadays. And like you said, because it's online businesses, that wasn't possible. I don't want to say 10 years, but 20 years ago, you had to work up the food chain, get to a certain level in the company, make X amount of money. Now it is just so fast. And you see young kids in their early 20s and just, and to be fair, also, there's a lot of bullshit online. There's a lot of people just leasing cars for the lifestyle, right? Like, oh, look at me. I'm by the beach next to a yacht in a Lambo. I don't own anything, but they're not going to tell you that. But they want to sell you the dream. And then you start thinking, oh, and then it's like, what are they selling? At the end of the day, they're selling something, which is what I like about you and why I'm hesitant sometimes when I see like a lot of people selling the lifestyle on social media. Because there's no substance there. Like, I'm like, all right, what have you created? Have you created a company? Have you sold a company? Have you done something? Right. No, they're just creating a lifestyle. And then people get attracted to that lifestyle and then they'll send you some sort of a course. It's also like, I hate when people say like, make it look easy. Oh, you don't need any skills. Oh, you can make 6 figures overnight. Like all that stuff, I'm like allergic to it. So I'm so happy to see there's people like you, young people that are like actually building things and creating value. That's awesome.
That's why I love B2B so much,
Yeah.
is because, I'm talking to other business owners. I'm not going to sell them on some pipe dream of like driving a Lambo or like being
They're not dummies
in Bali. Like my quote unquote marketing is like purely giving out value and like telling them how it logistically makes sense to work with us. I don't have to put on any front. I don't waste any money. Like, I have no motivation to go buy something materialistic for any other purpose than it's actually something that like I want. Like I bought myself, like, I don't use my, like, not that my car would really even be flashing up the marketing, but like I don't try to market my car. Like I literally just bought it because I like it and it makes me happy to drive it around. Like little things like that. That's why I love the B2B space. I don't have to try to do any like flashy marketing tactics. Like I'm literally just like, hey, I can make you more money. Like here's the deal.
Yeah. Do you think colleges in their current format could be obsolete in, I don't know, decades, maybe 2 decades, 3 decades?
I think they will be. And it's actually I had a conversation with one of my friends about this a little bit ago. It's like something that everyone has isn't valuable, right? And so it used to be like, say, I know a lot of friends that their parents are like first generation college graduates, or maybe their grandparents were first generation college graduates, because it wasn't common to have a degree then. So then by having it, you were uncommon, and then your status goes up and you're more, you look more employable, if you will, like you're more valuable to employers. But now it's like everyone has a degree. So like now a degree does not increase your status, unless again, you're one of the, select fields that you still absolutely need it: doctor, lawyer, engineer, etc. But, say in the business field, you having a finance degree, and again, now, unless it's from like a top 3 school, that's the only time now where it still increases your status. Like anything other than a top, maybe 5 to 10 school, and you're just like everyone else. And so now we're starting to get to a point where skills is actually what's starting to make people more valuable. And I actually think it levels the playing field a little bit, because I think anyone can acquire skills and anyone can be really good at something. Whereas I think degrees and like that whole process of like getting into schools and whatnot, because some of the most skilled and smartest people I know, like my business partner's incredibly successful, smartest guy I've ever had the privilege of talking to. And he dropped out of high school. And so I think there's a lot of instances like that. And so I think college is becoming more obsolete. And I think skills is really going to take over as being the thing of like what can actually give you status. Because even I think now, like, for example, I really think if I were to go to apply for some higher level sales or marketing job, and they had to put like me up against like a fresh college graduate, like I think employers are taking me today. Like I think they're smart enough to recognize that. Like, are you going to take the guy that has a piece of paper that says he learned a thing about marketing? Yeah. Or are you going to take the guy that's grown a business from 0 to 7-figure run rate in 12 months?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Right. And so I think employers are starting to pick up on that, and it's getting more and more common even in the tech field, with a lot of people going into tech sales with no degree. And even in coding, actually, a lot of people are just doing like certificate courses online, and they're getting tech jobs in, software engineering and making 6 figures. So I think college is becoming much more obsolete.
Yeah, technology is to us now what is water is to fish. It's part of our fabric. It is like it's what we breathe. It's what we eat. It's so important to our financial systems, our food systems. Everything is technology. That's why, like my niece, for example, she's young. She's 16 now, 17. And I hear sometimes like about what they're learning. I'm like, 50% of what you're learning in school still is irrelevant. Like that's not going to get you forward in life in any way, shape, or form. And 80% of that you're going to completely forget by the time you're 18. It just like outside of social skills, which is very important. Like I almost think that schools, I don't know, homeschooling just seems, or maybe new formats of schools would be a better use of time. Again, the only thing I could think of really is the social aspect. Like it's good to get scuffed up a couple of times, learn these social cues. Maybe homeschooling doesn't afford you that. But as far as the stuff that you learn, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a broken system, and it's unfortunately something that like, I had very good grades going up. Like I graduated like 39th or something out of like 500 people in my class. Like I got into a lot of top schools like Babson and, Case Western and Carnegie Mellon. And, and unfortunately I saw a lot of people that I know that didn't have as good of grades, but I know they're actually, like I said, very smart and talented people, but kind of makes them believe or lose that belief in themselves that they're smart and talented people because they didn't have that great of a GPA. So, it's definitely a broken system, but I think the direction that we're moving forward is going to become honestly more fair for those people because now, as long as you have skills, you're going to, be higher status than the people that just have a degree.
Yeah. How did your parents react when you told them you're dropping out?
Yeah, so that's actually a question I get a lot. And honestly, I was super, super blessed. My parents have always been super supportive of me. So they like not like a single, like they were completely supportive of it. They weren't upset at all. They didn't even try to persuade me to go back to school or anything. I think there's also a factor though, of like when I did make the decision, like I was making money and I was making more money than I would with my degree. So like it would have been like probably pretty hard to argue against. Yes, they were super supportive, and I was like, really, really blessed to have that.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Closify. So it's only sales reps, right? There's no is there like an expansion thing where you guys would go into other areas under, or is just sales reps?
No, so it's only sales reps. Now we started off with only closers, which closers are inbound sales reps, which means you literally get calls booked into your calendar. All you have to do is show up, take the call.
Okay.
And now we have expanded to SDRs, which are sales development representatives, which those are people that will go and do cold emailing for you as well. And they'll do like LinkedIn outbound and cold calling. So we have expanded there, but we're not going to expand out of that, sales niche. Like we're not going to try to become the next Upwork or Fiverr.
Smart.
Like, I think this is the future. And I've told people this, and I've actually seen it now. I think niche hiring platforms are the future. And like, I know a hiring platform for developers that's killing it. And I know this is technically, I literally just met this guy the other day. It's not a hiring platform. He's more of a recruiter, but it's more of a placement agency, but it's actually the same deal. It's helping finance people get placed in the top investment banking companies.
I see.
And it's really smart. And so I think those niche recruiting / hiring companies, I think they're really the future.
Riches in the niches, right?
Exactly.
So are the people on your website, are they freelancers, or do the companies that you work with, do they hire them full time, or is it both?
So it's a little bit of both. Some of them will hire them like part time, just like kind of like a freelance gig. But now I'd say more so most of our clients are actually hiring them full time because basically there's kind of like two parts needed for it to work, right? Since we're sourcing very good sales talent, they need to have a good earning opportunity, or else like they wouldn't take the gig because again, they're a talented salesperson.
Yeah.
So the business owner needs to be able to provide a full-time opportunity, and then the closer needs to be able to perform. And as long as those two things happen, we have happy clients and happy closers. So our best closer has been consistently been making 50 grand a month for the last several months.
Oh, so that's what top 1%.
Yeah.
What's like the median?
I'd say most of them make 5 to 10 grand a month.
5 to 10. That's nice.
Like no one's making below 5 grand a month. We do have quite a few people in the 10 to 20 grand a month range, but I'd say probably most are between like 5 and 10, maybe 15.
And then you guys get a cut of whatever they make, or do you guys have some sort of a contract with the hiring companies, and then that's that?
Yep. So we used to take 10% of what our closers netted. So again, they make 50 grand a month, pay us 5 grand a month. We actually just moved that commission to the business owner. So now we put a 2.5% commission on the business owner. Now, if they choose to bake that into what they were going to pay the closer, that's up to them. So, say they want to pay 15%. If they want to pay 12.5 to the closer, 2.5 to us, or if they just want to bite the bullet for their closer and pay 17.5 total, that's just up to them now.
That's cool. And then I'm interested in the team. You said, how big is the team right now?
Yeah. So it's me, two partners. One's like a kind of chief marketing officer, others chief technology officer. We got a developer, we got sales director, two closers, 4 sales development representatives. I just hired a lawyer, project manager, SEO agency. We pay a lead generation agency.
So the agency is obviously it's third, or like it's not in-house.
Yeah.
And then in-house, you're saying what, about 10, 12 people, something like that?
Yeah. So and so our overhead is, I think we're around 20 grand a month in overhead.
Wow. And then I'm assuming everything's remote, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. What who was your first hire?
It was my roommate. And so basically, again, I didn't want to. My business partner lives in Miami, and it's funny because he actually told me I should leave school, and I wanted to anyways, but so then I did. And then he kind of called me out of the blue one day, and he's like, "Hey, dude, like, are you still living in Ohio?" And I was like, "Yeah, I still live in Ohio. Like, what's up?" He's like, "What are you doing in Ohio?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "How soon can I get you to Miami?" So like next day, I book a plane ticket, go visit. I'm like, "This is sick. I want to move here." And I visited with my now roommate who I went to high school with. And I'm like, "Dude, what would it take for you to like move to Miami with me?" And he was like, "Dude, I would just need like a base salary on top of commissions," because he was my sales rep at that time. He's like, "I would just need a base salary on top of commissions." And I was like, "Done." So I hired him, and I started him off doing some like account management and like onboarding people as like, the first hire to make sure clients are happy and whatnot. And then as, we progress, I hired a project manager to like do a lot of the menial tasks for him. And then we finally moved him into like the sales manager role. So now he's managing our sales team, both our SDRs and our inbound reps, reviewing their calls, making sure they're meeting KPIs. Then that also led to us, I am actually releasing another software company now in like 4 weeks that actually, so kind of building a little.
I just saw that on Twitter, Trackify, right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of sticking with the IFI names, but so, I'm kind of building a little ecosystem here. So every prospect that comes to Closify and isn't ready yet, it's because they don't book enough sales calls yet to give a closer that good earning potential that I mentioned. So, and we book like 50 to 70 sales calls a week. Like we're really good at our outbound, lead generation strategies. And I was like, these people need more sales calls. We're really good at generating sales calls. Like, why don't I just build another company here? And so, and it's off the same traffic source. It's off the same leads that we already have coming in the Closify. So then started a lead generation agency about month and a half ago. We got 5 clients on our first month. We're at capacity right now. We can't take on any more because we're systemizing that. And then, we have over 170 clients at Closify, and they're all like, we do like a lot of interviews and stuff with them, always seeing like where we can help. And they're like, "How do you guys like track your like, SDRs and closers, like KPIs? Like, we've just been using Google Sheets." And we're like, "Yeah, like we've been using Google Sheets too." And they're like, "Yeah, we wish there was kind of like a better alternative. Like Google Sheets just like isn't very pretty." And so, now I just like, what? I'm going to build something better. And so now it's basically going to have, it's the same principle as Google Sheets, but prettier dashboards with graphs. It's going to, graph out, the numbers your sales reps currently doing versus what their KPI is. If they fall under KPI, it's going to send a notification to the sales manager and say, "Hey, you need to give them more coaching," or like, "Hey, they need to send X." It'll do the projections like, "Hey, if they're going to finish the month at quota, they need to do X numbers instead of their original ones." So it's like now, we can book you sales calls. We can help you hire the team to close the sales calls. And then we'll give you the software needed to manage their KPIs. So that's kind of the little ecosystem of companies that I'm building now.
Wow. You must be busy, dude. 2 companies at 21. Is this kind of like just an extension of Closify, or is this a completely different entity?
It's a separate entity. But again, they're all going to pay each other, right? So like Closify pays lead, like I use all my own companies. Like Closify pays the lead generation agency to book sales calls for us. I hire all of our SDRs and closers from Closify. And then in the future, every Closify client is going to come with a preloaded Trackify account baked into their Closify subscription. So then Closify will obviously shoot a kickback to Trackify. So all the companies are growing on top of each other like one little snowball effect.
I want to go back to the team for a second. I'm interested because you didn't have like prior experience. It's not like you ran like all these companies and
No.
you had experience. Did you have some sort of a strategy or an idea like who are the people I want to hire and like what did you base that on? Or is it just gut feeling?
I got super, super lucky with one of my business partners. Like I said, he was like a dude that I really looked up to, and he actually ended up becoming a business partner from like a DM.
Okay.
So like I listened to like all of his podcasts ever, and kind of just like updated him like, yo, dude, like loved your podcast. Like now I became a sales rep, then I started a sales agency. Now I'm starting a software company. And he's like, hey dude, what's the software company? And I explained it to him and he was like, I'd love to be a part of this. And so he came on board and, he's sold tons of companies. He's grown tons of companies to 7 and 8 figures. And so he's the one that's helped me be like, hey, here are the hires you need to make. And like, hey, here's how you operate as a CEO. Because something that I really struggled with was, once I moved here to Miami and we actually started making a decent bit of money, we just went and made hires. And we actually just did it again because anytime we have a huge, growth month, we just go and make a lot of hires. Cause like that's the highest ROI thing we can do. Right.
Yeah.
So we just made a ton of new hires again. It got to the point where month over month, we were making the most money and I was making the most money I'd ever made. And I told him, I was like, dude, I kind of feel crappy. I'm like not doing that much. And I'm like making a lot of money. And he was like, that's because like you're used to being a hustler and like doing all this stuff while in college. He's like, dude, like hustling might have gotten you your first 6 figures, but it's like hustling will never get you to 7 and 8 figures. So he's like, it's like your job as the CEO, and this really stuck with me, is like you have like 2 main priorities that you need to figure out. It's like who can I go pay to do what for me? Like essentially who can I hire? And then
delegating.
And then in what order should I be making these hires? So then basically, every once a month or so, we'll write down all the different things that we could hire out in the near future. And then we'll categorize them if they're going to either have an impact on client experience or if they're going to have an impact directly on our revenue. And then based on those 2 categories, we'll rank them 1 to 3. 1 being like low impact, 3 being highest impact of like, okay. And then we focus on the highest impacts for client experience and revenue, obviously. And so that's been like the most helpful piece of advice I've probably ever gotten, because now that's just like where I put a lot of my focus.
Wow, that's incredible, dude. How important would you say it is for a CEO or his ability at least to create a following and engagement on Twitter? Let's take an example, Twitter, right? Because that's, I think, where you're at least most active on. Like, what are the big benefits of having an audience on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok?
Yeah, absolutely. Every CEO, or I mean, really anyone in general, should like have a personal brand, because it's one. I launched the idea of Closify with a Twitter thread. Like I put out a Twitter thread to validate the idea, and I woke up to 50 plus DMs like of people interested in hiring sales reps. And then it's actually amazing for hiring too. Again, not necessarily like, super, super tough to hire positions. But for example, if I'm looking for like a website developer, I just put, hey, I need a website developer, and someone's going to introduce me to one. And so again, you can use it to validate your product. You can use it to push traffic to your product. I mean, we probably bring in, I don't know, 2-3 clients a month from my Twitter. And so, I mean, personal brand is not to mention, the people that you're going to meet. Like, again, I've met business partners through Twitter. I've done a lot of business with people that I've met through Twitter, like a lot of people. And so, building, that's like, honestly, it's one of my big focuses right now on top of hiring is, I got a lot more active on LinkedIn. I just started a YouTube channel, like just growing a personal brand. That's my one big focus right now that I'm putting a lot of my time into, besides, looking to make new hires.
So YouTube, you're going to focus on YouTube now as well?
Yeah.
What are you going to do on YouTube? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, so I'm actually about to record a video today. I'm putting out a lot of content around growing B2B businesses because, like I said, that's what I've done. That's what I'm good at. And I'm going to be talking about the way that I've grown them, which is with cold email, LinkedIn outbound, and then building inbound sales teams. And then obviously, I'm going to plug my own products to use on my YouTube. Hey, if you want us to do the outbound cold email for you, we do that. Hey, if you're ready to hire your sales teams, like we do that. Okay, hey, you need to manage your sales team better, like we do that. So I'm going to be trying to attract a lot of B2B business owners on my channel.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. I think a lot of people scroll social media kind of mindlessly, right? They'll be on Instagram and they'll just scroll up, oh, cool picture, oh, beautiful destination, oh, maybe I'll make that cake one day. And same with Twitter, maybe they'll go and they'll see what's happening, right? They'll like get mad about this, that, and the other, or they'll see this person doing this, whatever. They don't understand. And there's almost no downside to trying to create your own brand and putting content out there. And again, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're into hiking, if you're into business, if you're into, doesn't matter, right? It's industry agnostic. Whatever it is that you're into, there are other people that are interested in that thing as well. And if you put you don't have to be like the utmost authority, as long as you know something and you can grow. And yeah, stuff you're going to put out initially is probably going to suck, but you're going to get better. My first podcast was horrific, right? This one is great. The episode 500 is probably going to be even better. Like you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you're going to be more confident. You're just going to create better things. And like, there's so many, like even this podcast is like opened doors for me, created opportunities. Same with Twitter. I barely have it. Like I have 1,000+ people that follow me on Twitter. Like, and I've met cool people like yourself and other people. So there's no downside. Sure, it takes some time and some effort. And I think people maybe are also scared of, what are people going to say? Am I going to get mean comments? Am I going to look stupid? Those are options, but more likely than not, it's going to be positive. Like you just have to take that risk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because, it's like, it's funny to think about what a tiny risk that is compared to what it was 20 years ago. Like you said, like 20 years ago, you got to take out a loan. You've got to like open some brick and mortar business or something. That's like here, you can literally throw out a couple tweets, a couple TikToks, and you can be making thousands of dollars online. Granted, it's obviously not that easy. You have to do one thing consistently for 6 to 12 months before you'll see any traction. But like still, dude, there are literally people that just schedule Twitter content, stay consistent for 6 to 12 months, and they start making a full-time income from Twitter. Like that's not a risk.
We see these people all day long. Like I follow a bunch of those people.
It's so easy. And again, the top Twitter accounts, like people are pulling in 6 figures a month from Twitter accounts. Like
crazy.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So to the idea of like not putting out content because you're scared of what people are going to think or say is pretty ridiculous, considering it's like, they're not going to be saying a whole lot when you're making 6 figures a month from a Twitter account. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, it's even more than that. It's like most likely they're just not going to say anything, like, because no one cares. Like no one knows you, dude. Like you're not going to get mean or bad comments for the most part, unless you're like putting out completely ridiculous things. Right. But even that sometimes that works for some people. But more often than not, you're just not going to get any engagement, right? Because you're new and no one knows you, and you have to build a following. And it's like, oh, I already follow all these other people that are amazing. Why should I care about you? You have to create some sort of an emotional response within people, or you have to create some sort of a value that people are like, oh, this guy, oh, he does STRs, cool. Let me, or whatever, strip malls, cool. Let me look. I'm interested. You have to create interest. So like even if it's a little bad, it's still good because it's engagement. It's still getting people riled up. That's why so many people online, they'll try to like just peddle bullshit because they, comments, bad or good, are still comments. So at least they get engagement and they're happy with that. That's not what you want to do, but some people definitely do that.
Yeah.
What, just as I'll take me for example, my impressions on Twitter range from anything from 30K to 300, even some months 400K. But weirdly, my followers haven't really grown like over the past 6 or so months. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months. Yeah. Like, what am I doing wrong? School me. Tell me, like, what should I be doing?
Yeah. So there's really only like one growth hack that you need to grow on Twitter, and that's to just put out 3 good threads a week. If you put out 3 good threads a week, you're gonna grow. Like,
Okay.
I promise. You will grow. Like that's the strategy that I got from like the biggest accounts on Twitter. They're like, just put out 3 good threads a week. The other easiest one, if you want to literally go gain like 300 followers today, literally, do you use Tweet Hunter?
I did for a while. Is that the one where you do like 100 tweets, like 100 days of tweeting consecutively?
No, it's a software. So
Okay.
like tweethunter.io, and you've probably seen it. You can do this really cool auto DM feature. You can, so for example, like one that I've done is like, want to know how we book 50 to 70 sales calls per week? Just comment or just retweet and comment below guide, and I'll send over you the free guide. And it says like, must be following me to receive DM. Like 400 people comment guide. They all follow you. You gain like 400 followers in a day. And I do that like 3 times a month.
Really?
So I gain like 1,200 followers a month on average, just from like those tweets. And then you factor in the threads. And then it's like, I'm also like, I stopped taking Twitter seriously for a while. Like there are people that have grown from like 0 to 20K faster than I've grown from like 0 to almost at 8K or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started focusing on it again now. So like my goal is like literally to like, get to like 15K by the end of the year, if not more. But like you can actually grow really, really fast if you're consistent.
Yeah. My goal was to get to 10K by the end of the year. The trajectory doesn't look promising. Anything can change. But I'm interested as far as tweethunter.io. I think I follow the guy, or he follows me. Yeah. And but like if you're putting out, let's say the guide example that you gave out, like how do they push it out for you? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So it's an automated feature. As soon as you just set the settings of like, hey, just to DM them, they have to either just comment or comment and retweet or whatever. And then every person that comments and retweets, the software will automatically send them a DM that you set the DM message. So like you could be like, hey, here's the guide, insert the link. And then you could be like, by the way, like we offer this as a done for you service too, if you want more info on that. And then like plug your VSL or put your scheduling link. So it is a really insane tool to make more money using Twitter.
I'll look into it. Yeah. Do you have people that you look up, other than I think you're the co-founder, one of your business partners that you mentioned, do you look up to people that like you constantly listen to on like a daily/weekly basis?
Yeah, I have another buddy here that I hang out with in Miami. He's Cold Email Wizard on Twitter. You've probably seen him.
Okay. I think I have.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine here. I literally just like went to the beach with him the other day. It was kind of like whenever he talks, I kind of shut up and listen. He's a really good marketer. And he owns quite a few companies as well. So, I definitely, always listen whenever he's talking. Then outside of that, and, again, I try to learn the most from my one business partner. And I think he's done some really incredible things. I think he's only maybe 24 now, 23. And, he's done a lot more than I have. And so
that's crazy that you guys are so young and you're doing so much. It's really mind boggling. Yeah.
And so, I really, and not to mention like, he's very down to earth. He's very, very, very successful. And, he's not like, he's lifting people up. And, I think the other thing that's important, he gives out a lot of opportunities and gives a lot of people chances. And I think that's what really helps him become successful is like, when you give someone a chance, like they're, normally if you like kind of gauge the right person, like they're going to be very determined to not waste that chance you gave them. And so, I've kind of followed something similar to him as we're like, I try, like, I don't pay myself a ton out of my company. Like some months I won't even pay myself at all. Mm-hmm. And, that allows me to then give out more opportunities to other people to help us grow. And so then when you look at it, like our company culture, if you go on our Slack channel every single morning, you're waking up and seeing the sales team and everyone's like, let's get after it today. Like, what else can I do for you today? Like everyone wants us to really grow and succeed. And It's because like, I give out opportunities. Like we're all like, there's no like hierarchy. Like we all put our heads together when we're trying to solve a problem. Like, okay, like how do we meet our goals for this quarter? Like it's just like one team meeting where like everyone's listening and bouncing ideas off of each other. It's not like one person's like, hey, this is the plan that's right. Like it's not. And I listen to them all the time because my sales reps will come up with better ideas than I do. And so that's what I said. Like, you know, I'm really open to listen to everyone. And I just like to give out opportunities to people that I can tell are, you know, hungry. And, you know, so Closify has, you know, gotten a lot of people from like where they are to where they want to be as like the vehicle to bridge that gap. You know what I mean? They've started making a lot of money working, you know, in Closify. And, you know, so then in return, they do a great job.
Dude, were you always like, even at a younger age, were you like a mature, you know, level-headed kind of teenager? Because the reason I ask is most people at 21 and in college, they want to go party, drink, get fucked up. And just in general, it seems like the younger generation is very interested in this victim mentality, right? Like, oh, I can't do this. I can't get ahead. You know, just everything is about victimhood. And then if I even go back, you know, whatever, 15 plus years when I was around your age, like I just wanted to travel the world. You know, I wanted to just have fun. I don't know, hook up with girls. Like starting a company at 20 wasn't top of mind for me back then. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm so impressed with what you've done at such a young age. So like, is this part of who you always were, or like, how did this become?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I was like more mature than like the typical person. I didn't party in college really, but that was just because I didn't really have the time. And I just realized that I was going to be very unhappy if I went the college route. Mm-hmm. But I'd say it more so stems from like something of like, I've always cared about like essentially like winning realistically. Like I'm very, very competitive. Like when I played tennis, like there's nothing worse to me than losing. Like losing is horrible. Like to me, it's like, I like, don't think it's acceptable. Like, I know it's like a part, like, I know it's a part of life. And like, you know, I've lost a lot. And again, I wasn't the best in the world at tennis, and that it almost like bothers me. And so then, you know, as I shifted kind of from like tennis into like business being the main focus, like it was just like, it's the new game for me. Right. And so, and I kind of realized like, in order to kind of like start to win at the game, I had to kind of like remove money as like a motivating factor for me personally. So that's why I capped, even when the company was growing rapidly, I always capped what I was allowed to pay myself, because then it just becomes like a cycle of like, oh, okay, like, you know, I pay myself more now, I'm going to go upgrade my lifestyle even more, and that type of stuff. And so, you know, Hormozy says a great thing of like, you need to get to making so much money where the only use of money is to make more money. And so now, like I said, when I get to take that extra money that I have now and I get to go hire people and I get to go give people opportunities and build my company bigger, it's almost like it's starting to like win at the game more. Like I see it all as a game right now. Whereas like I'm trying to see like how big, like how many people can I get on the team? Like how, and you know, of course I'm looking at revenue, like how much revenue can the company make? Like not me personally. Like I don't like, I'm good on cash flow. Like my cash flow allows for me to, again, like I said, I live in Miami, got a decent car, do fun things on the weekends, all that stuff. So it's like, how many people can I get on my team? You know, how much revenue can I get this company to make? You know, how much can we sell for one day? Like that's just all stuff that I kind of see in my head as like a game now. And so now it's kind of just like, you know, when I was a kid, I was hyper focused on being the best at tennis. Now I'm like, I'm really hyper focused and obsessed with like being the best at building B2B companies, like building sales teams. Like, you know, I really do think we've built the best hiring solution for sales teams. Like, I really don't think there's a single company out there that can compete with like us. And again, we're like most affordable, the most predictable, and the fastest. Like I truly believe that. And still, you know, we pay $50,000 a year now to our developer for continued improvements and new features. And that number is going to go up again. We're going to start paying him more every month as we make more. And so like, it's just like, how much better can we continue to dominate this space? And like, that's kind of like what like excites me.
You brought that athlete mentality into business.
Right.
Yeah. Have you guys raised any capital?
Completely bootstrapped. We get approached all the time to raise capital. I'm like, no, never raise capital. Started it with my savings from my sales job. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, if like,
Yeah.
and to me, it's like, I hope to get into like angel investing and stuff like that at some point. And to me, like, it would be a huge red flag if a founder didn't at least start the business bootstrap. Like, okay, I understand scenarios where like, hey, maybe you want to raise like, I don't know, 500 grand to go spend a ton on marketing and like, quickly take market share or something.
Yep.
But if the founder couldn't even start the company bootstrap, like say you only needed like 10 to 50K, like if you as a founder can't go out and scrap up that money, like that's not someone I'd want to place my bet on.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you see? I guess what's the future? Like, what do you see this as an exit move strategy in 5 years? And if so, like if you had to predict now, how much do you see yourself? How much do you see yourself selling the company for, and who do you see yourself selling the company to?
Yeah, it's honestly something that I just started to think about. Not that I want to sell it soon, but because I've been talking to a lot of people with exits experience, and they've all been saying like you need to think about the exit long before it actually happens.
Yep.
And so that's why I actually just hired a lawyer recently to help us like make sure we like have the right contracts, right business structure, etc.
I had this guy. Sorry to interrupt you. I had this guy Mark Ackler on the podcast, and he actually wrote the book on like the perfect exit. So yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go read that. Yeah, I actually tell people all the time, like I pay for a lot of consultations with people all the time because I'm like, I'm 21 and I always say I don't know what I don't know. So like, there's all these intricacies about selling a business that I have no clue about. And so my plan is to sell all these companies together as a roll up. And so, I obviously, I know that your multiplier is going to be higher if you can sell 3 companies that build off of each other versus if you just sell one company. So, my ideal scenario is to sell all 3 companies together. I don't really like, we've said some numbers about what we hope to sell for. And, the multipliers are a little different now, I think, now that we're in a recession, but, I'm pretty confident that we can get this to 250 grand a month by the end of the year. And I think we can definitely get it to 500 grand a month. So 5 grand a month is like 6 million a year. And that's just Closify alone, not like all 3.
Yeah.
That'd be 6 million a year. Like a very conservative multiplier for, like a tech platform would be like a 5x. So, that's like 30 million. So I don't think 30 million would be the worst thing in the world, know? But at the end of the day, a lot of stuff can change. And I honestly have no clue who we would sell for. Like that's not, like I said, it's always like I should probably start talking to like business brokers or like VCs or something just to start like planting that seed and like seeing, trying to start those relationships. It's probably something I should start doing. But at this current moment, it's not even something I've looked at just because like I don't think it's too close in the near future. Like I think I have a lot of ground still to cover. But I mean, yeah, I want to get us. I think bare minimum, I want to get us like that 500K a month mark because like I know we can.
Yeah. It was an interesting conversation with him because he's obviously sold a bunch of companies, and like I said, he wrote the book and he advises young entrepreneurs to really. He was like such a common mistake I see is they think about it. They start thinking about it when it's too late, and he advocates for them to start thinking about it much sooner. Because it's a lengthy process and it takes up a lot of time and a lot of bandwidth. So yeah, just definitely check that one out.
Yeah, I talked to someone the other day that said the same thing. Like I need to start going talking to business brokers and talking to VCs and private equity and just kind of start those conversations and start those relationships. Because I definitely worst thing I can do is like he said, wait too long and then you end up in a crappy situation where you're getting less than what you should.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I'm interested because, I've been having more and more CEOs and founders on. And the more I go on, I listen to a lot of podcasts and YouTube and stuff, and I see them using it more as a promotional tool than ever before. And I'm kind of just like, do you like doing podcasts, these like long format type? Because like I said, it's a great promotional tool because someone can really sit there for 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, and, marinate in everything that you're giving. And not only the company, but you yourself, like you said, as the brand. But I think some CEOs, it's like, I have to do this podcast again. It's like maybe they don't love it as much, but they realize it's a great promotional tool. And then others just love the spotlight, right? And they shine when the mic approaches them. Which one are you?
No, I mean, I honestly understand like the promotional aspects, and it's always the evergreen, content. But I actually really do enjoy doing them because I'm like, even like even if it's whatever I say, a lot of the other ones that I've done, it's whether it's like how to start making your first dollars online, or like advice that I would have given to myself, or it's like how to grow your B2B company. Like, kind of, even if anything I say helps like one person that listens, that's kind of like a win in my book. Like I kind of like I hop on calls with people for free all the time. I see this as something kind of similar, and it's where like I'm just like really fortunate that I get to live the life that I live right now. And it's like, I want everyone else to experience the life that I get to live. And so it's like, if what I say on a podcast can help someone do that, and if they don't ever end up paying me, like, I'm still completely fine with that. So, it's something that I do really enjoy to do.
Yeah. Well, Alex, you're awesome, dude. This was awesome. You give me hope for the future. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Where can people, obviously we talked about Closify, where are the best, give us all the plugs, where are the best places to find you online?
Yeah. So best thing would be is, where I'm most active, like we said, is my Twitter. It's at AlexH459, or you could probably search Alex from Closify and you'll find me. But yeah, that's where I'm most active and where I put out the most content.
Cool. And as always, I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes, make it easy for you guys to find it. Alex, this was awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.